Attention, please. This here feels like a whole entire world collapse.
Strictly fire and strictly business, boys. Welcome back. It's podcast number 2 for Dine-In Sports. I'm Travis Green, joined by Emmett McCarthy. Or should I say McCarthy?
I heard it that time.
There we go. Keegan Pope. We got a lot to talk about today. Last time, I don't know if we promised.
Mostly goofy white dudes.
Mostly goofy white dudes. Did we say we would last podcast?
We joked about it. I don't know if we actually decided to do this until afterwards, but either way, it's happening.
The Tweeter sphere.
It was inspired by when we started talking about Cody Doolin, I think, and then it was when we mentioned Marshall Henderson real quick, and someone said we should just do a podcast on just crazy, goofy white basketball players, and I said we could just probably do a podcast on just Marshall Henderson.
We could.
That's for another time. This is more for the Cody Doolins of the world.
Yeah, so today, I guess a little rundown is we're going to do our all goofy white guy basketball squad centered around college hoops. We got quite the lineup listed up here. I was very disappointed. One of my guys was taken, which I thought nobody else would think of.
Wait, do we have to have like a starting lineup?
I mean, Keegan and I did.
Guys can
I went with the starting 5.
Yeah. And then I got my honorable mentions.
I just wrote down a few goofy white dudes that...
My starting 5 would win at least 25 games, make it to the first round of the NCAA tournament.
Mine wouldn't.
The funny part is, any white guy I looked up that was good, he was goofy, basically. It's kind of a correlation there.
I was really disappointed because I wanted to break out this one name that I thought I knew you guys wouldn't have it. Bo McCaleb played at UNO in college, and my parents' neighbors, whenever we go to Wizards games, and go with our neighbors, they're Serbian, and they always talk about this dude Bo McCaleb, who just lights up like some league in Macedonia and got citizenship there and plays on their national team. He's just like a celebrity over there. And I was like, did he never have a chance of playing in the NBA? They're like, no, he's not athletic enough, all that. And I just assumed like this guy Bo McCaleb, not athletic enough for the NBA, that he was white. I Googled him today, and he's not white.
That's
totally just assumed he was white. Yeah.
Disappointed in you for making assumptions. All right, well, so we'll have the all-white goofy guy squad, which is basically the all-white squad. Let's be honest here. Then we're going to talk CSU basketball, which is the whole purpose of the podcast, but that's kind of transformed into us messing around. Big game against CU on Sunday, and then we'll just kind of talk about whatever we want with the basketball team.
And for a little overlap, we got to shout out Josh Morgan, former CSU walk-on.
We do.
GPA booster.
Shouts.
Shout out to Josh Morgan.
All
hey,
right,
Josh.
Let's get it started. I want to come up with a cool song. I just thought of that. I should have done that before. Well, it's too late now. Let's do our all goofy white guy squad. Who wants to start us off?
I'll jump in.
I don't have a squad, so
I'll jump in. So, starting point guard, the man of the hour, the reason we're doing this podcast, Cody Doolin.
Yeah.
I mean, tell me if I'm wrong here, guys, but I don't know if there's been a goofier white basketball player over the past 10 years than Cody Doolin. So, I think I'll start him at the 1. At the 2 spot, going to go with Adam Nigon, CSU legend. For those of you who don't know, Adam Nigon was a walk-on under Tim Miles, earned his way, got a scholarship. If you're wondering why I think he's a goofy guy, just search Adam Nigon on Google and you will understand. At the 3, we are going to go with the Adam Morrison.
Yeah.
Probably one of the greatest goofy white college basketball players of all time.
Yeah, I mean, he's in all of our lineups.
He was an absolutely awful NBA player. But, I mean, in college, I don't know that there's a better goofy, white, weird basketball player than Adam Morrison.
Oh, he got buckets. We talked about him last time.
Yes, we also did talk about him because he was at Gonzaga when we were up there for the game. And growing a weird porn stash thing. He's got probably the greasiest hair I've ever seen. I saw recently that one of his former teammates in the NBA said that he didn't shower.
Yeah,
Which, I mean,
read that too.
Believe that.
Does that surprise anybody?
No,
I mean,
not whatsoever.
so yeah, just a weird guy.
I didn't shower today.
That doesn't surprise me either.
Well,
Based on the shirt you're
What he's
wearing.
For anybody that's listening, the shirt Emmett is wearing right now, you got to go to Keegan or I's Twitter because, oh my goodness. Undercover brother right here. What all is on that? Let's take a look at this. There's like kissy lips. It looks like a jacket.
There's fake chest hair at the top, which
Fake
is
chest
funny.
hair.
Exactly.
There's a couple of chains in there.
Yeah.
Couple of
And the belt
some
says
leopard
hot.
print.
Yep.
Hot.
I don't know why
A lot of
anybody would ever-
zippers. A lot of zippers
Yeah.
on that.
They're pockets,
Yeah.
not real pockets.
Not real.
obviously.
Yeah.
The question I have is, why would anybody ever make that?
Why wouldn't they?
They
But-
made it exactly for Emmett. Like when they were thinking, there's like, what kind of shirt could we design for like these just odd people? And they were like, oh, Emmett McCarthy, perfect shirt.
What's more important is the shirt that I'm not wearing. I had to break it out for today. The only reason I haven't sold this on eBay yet is because I was waiting for it to come in handy. My signed Mark Madsen Timberwolves jersey.
Gorgeous. That thing's going to be worth a lot one day.
Yeah.
And that one day will be no day.
I have no idea how I got it. Definitely never purchased a Timberwolves jersey. Definitely have never asked Mark Madsen for an autograph. But I have a signed Mark Madsen Timberwolves jersey.
Don't lie, you stalked him.
Either way.
You emailed him a
Dude,
million
who didn't
times.
love seeing him break it down during the Lakers championship celebration?
That's
that was
true,
the
that's true.
ultimate
I mean,
goofy
that was-
white
yeah.
basketball player moment.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
mean,
like Shaq, you win a championship with Shaq and Kobe, and they make you dance at the parade, and you get made fun of on ESPN.
The,
for
Exactly.
the whole
week.
time. Not even just the next week.
It was like months.
Forever.
Yeah, whole offseason.
he
Once
will.
a
That's like no one will ever know Mark Madsen's career stats or what he did.
Yeah.
They'll know him as the goofy white guy who was
dancing.
dancing during the Lakers parade.
Right.
So back
Back
to
to Keegan's
back to
list.
my team. Power forward. Tyler Hansbrough. Psycho
Oh,
T.
Psycho T.
How can you have a white weird basketball team without Psycho T?
Yeah, he kind of his crazy eyes, man.
He was scary. He
hate
was
that guy.
legitimately scary.
Eh.
And like you look, and I like while I was looking
Was
for
he?
like I searched on Google and really came up with nothing, but searched like weird white basketball players, and like most of them that came up were like the most hated basketball players
Yeah.
of all time, and Tyler Hansbrough was like in the top 3 of every single one of those lists.
So many people hated him too.
Like he was, if he had played at Duke.
Oh,
Like, imagine how much more people would have hated
Well,
him if he'd played at Duke.
I think he's our generation's Christian Leitner.
not as good as Christian Leitner,
No,
but
but
yeah.
I'm saying, but
Yeah, a
like
little,
you know,
yeah.
the level of hate for him, and
Mhm.
that's how
I hated Tyler Hansbrough
I did
watching.
too. I did
like,
too.
I
I
could
hated
not
him too,
stand
but-
watching him.
I-
And like he was the epitome of a white basketball player. Like
Yeah.
growing up, like he was like took the skill set that I had and actually turned it into something. Like he was actually talented, but I for some reason just hated him.
Did you just compare your skill set to Tyler Hansborough's?
He
Yes.
did.
Okay.
Not level of skill, my skill set. So all of we had similar skills, just not level of skills.
Like that you have creepy eyes.
No, not the creepy eyes.
That skill
If
set.
you broke your nose, would you keep playing?
Great free throw shooters. Couldn't shoot outside of like 15 feet.
See, I didn't like Hansbrough though, because he was like a fake tough guy. Like when when Birdman was like pushing him in the finals, he like wouldn't engage in any of that. Like he was getting punked by Birdman, and then like,
Dude, would you mess with
when you-
Birdman? Because I
when-
wouldn't.
I definitely wouldn't.
well, okay, but don't
He killed a
don't
guy.
act like a tough guy then. And then when
Isn't that allegedly though?
he did something,
That's Ray Lewis. My bad.
he in the preseason a year or two ago, he like someone fouled him hard from behind, and like he turned around like ready to stare him down, try to intimidate him. And then he realized it was Meta World Peace, and like search it on YouTube. Like he turns around all mean, and then his eyes just like get wide, and he like apologizes.
All right, but I'm strictly talking about UNC Tyler Hansbrough.
Okay,
Okay.
We're going college Tyler Hansbrough.
All right.
Where he got
College.
elbowed in the nose, just bleeding everywhere, wouldn't come out of the game. That's the guy I'm talking about.
Like that a bit.
That's actually what happened to him in a game. He got RKO'd. But the final addition to my roster, Matt Stainbrook.
Stainbow.
And this is another guy. I don't know how you can have a recent weird white basketball player roster without him. I mean, he had the white, not even goggles. He had like glasses that he wore during the game.
Mm-hmm.
The guy was an Uber driver in his spare time. Like he worked He played basketball at Xavier
Oh, God.
on a scholarship and also worked as an Uber driver.
Well,
If
props
there's
to him.
something goofier and whiter than that, I don't know what it is. So you look at that roster. I mean, you got Cody Doolin. You've got Adam Morrison. You've got Tyler Hansborough.
Yeah.
Matt Stainbrook, and Adam Nygon.
Solid squad.
That's a Sweet 16 team most years. That is a Sweet
Put on
16
the
team.
all-white goofy squad. That might be finals.
Oh, that's a Final Four
gonna
team
say-
on the all-white goofy squad. I mean, who do you put up there? I mean, I have a list of other guys. I mean, Alex Kirk at New Mexico.
Yeah.
Cameron Bairstow,
Alex Kirk, the gingerbread assassin.
the gingerbread assassin. Luke Walton. Jimmer Fredette's got to be up there. I mean, there's a pretty great list.
That's pretty solid. Speaking of Luke Walton, I cannot stand listening to Bill Walton.
Did not think that's where you were going with that.
I cannot stand. I don't know what it is, man. Listen to this. There was a really nice jam, and he was saying that in college guys can't throw down. It's like, are you kidding me? Do you analyze college basketball? They throw down every week.
But does he really analyze college basketball? Like last year, he showed up. I think it was to his Stanford game, and he was wearing a Stanford rowing crew uniform while he was announcing the game, like a Speedo.
Oh,
Like he was legitimately wearing a Speedo while he was announcing a game, and I was just like, "What is happening right now? Like, what am I watching? Is this real?" Bill Walton wearing a Speedo announcing a major Division I college basketball game. Like, that is like life goals.
Seriously, that's the level where you're like, I'm not gonna get fired. Why not?
Exactly.
I liked Reggie Miller at the Mountain West tournament last year when he had the baseball cap, pulled down. Like he had his hood up for a while. Like he kind of was rocking a Unabomber look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't really want to be seen. I think that's what it was. To be honest.
Yeah, he wasn't-
True.
Yeah,
right.
not proud to
All
be
right, Travis,
the
you're
Mountain
up.
West.
I'm gonna up Keegan right here, and this
Ooh,
is
that's
one
tough.
I said. I had a guy I thought nobody else would think of, and of course, both these guys think of him. Syracuse guard Jerry McNamara. I loved watching him play. Goofy white guy.
One of the greatest white point guards in Big East history.
He was fun to watch. I got two guards in this. My next guy, Greg Paulus,
Hate that
Duke.
guy.
The epitome
hate.
of Duke basketball.
He really
Greg
is.
Paulus.
This
And then
is
he
that white guy you gotta hate.
tied to Jerry McNamara. He went to Syracuse to play quarterback.
Dude,
Yeah,
interesting
Greg
fact
Paulus.
about Greg Paulus.
I did.
He
know
was
that.
the top-rated basketball recruit in the country in high school, and he was the top-rated football recruit
That's right.
in high school.
That's right.
Probably the last time a white guy was the top-rated basketball recruit in
And
the country.
football.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we learned
Yeah.
our lesson on that one. Well, no, football you'll still have
That's true.
You'll still have a quarterback here and there. I mean, I'm not saying it's happened recently, but you could possibly happen. Doubt we see the number one guy to commit to Kentucky being a white guy anytime soon.
but I mean, Greg Paulus was like the epitome of Duke basketball. Like pulled his shorts up,
He did.
slapped the
Oh,
floor,
physical.
smacked his chest,
Yeah.
just a general pain in the ass. Like
Mhm.
he's the epitome of Duke basketball.
It's Greg Paulus.
When
It is.
Danny Green put his nuts in his face, is top 5 college basketball
That
moments
jam.
ever.
Yeah, Keegan and I
Killed him.
couldn't remember it until Emmett showed us. Good Lord.
Thank you, Danny
The
Green.
Dick Vitale call on that makes it even better.
Anything Dickie V says makes everything better, in my opinion. Some people hate him. I love Dickie
yeah.
V.
I'll trade you Bill Walton for Dickie V.
Oh,
I'll take
no.
I'll take Dickie V any day.
Any day. Any
Nothing,
day.
not even anything against Bill Walton on my part. Travis apparently hates his guts, but
I can't. I don't hate him. I just can't listen
is
to
it
him.
another one of those faces you just want to
Just
punch? All right.
Well, that's been small forward for my squad. It's a given. Greaseball himself, Adam Morrison. That's
I think
That's
that's
a
a
given.
pretty unanimous.
yeah.
Fair.
pretty
Power
unanimous.
forward. I don't think you guys have him. Josh McRoberts
McBob.
on the Duke team with Greg Paulus.
Another Duke
with
guy
also
you just
JJ
love
Redick.
to hate. You just love to hate Josh McRoberts.
And he's gotten more goofy in the NBA. He's grown out the long ponytail and big time beard. In college, he didn't rock that,
Mhm.
but yeah, goofy guy. But he can throw
good.
down.
No, he's
He's
still
good.
really good.
Mhm. I didn't understand why he didn't do well in the beginning of his career in the NBA. I thought he'd be better.
Wasn't he playing for the Lakers for a while though?
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's probably why.
And Kobe took all the shots.
Yeah.
yeah. Center.
Wait, let's show Kobe some respect this week. All right.
You're right.
Just this week.
You're right.
Whatever.
My center, probably the most recent guy we have on any of our lineups here, Frank the Tank Kaminsky. Just a goon, man. But he was so good. And, yeah, I don't know.
White.
So much swag,
so
though.
white.
So much swag
Seriously.
for a white guy.
He could dance, too. I saw him on Sports Nation
Yeah, again.
dancing last year.
Don't
Pretty
watch
cool.
Sports Nation.
Yeah, that is a
That's
lesson
fair,
learned.
fair.
But I did like watching that bit. I think that's a final squad right there.
All right.
Not even Final Four. It's a finals.
We've got Emmett McCarthy coming up here.
All
What
right.
you got, Coach?
Mine's going to be a bit more disorganized. I'm kind of just going to throw some names out and hope that it turns into a starting
lineup.
five. I'm going to be a little guard heavy here. I got to go Kirk Heinrich. Going up against Jerry McNamara. So I always I love him in the NBA too, just because he rocks the Ray Allen shooting sleeve. You know, he had the Rip Hamilton face mask for a while, Kareem goggles sometimes. He's got the Kevin Durant leg things, just to average 7 points a game.
Oh, and he's got he's got the same Stainbow glasses. I mean, they're legitimate
Yeah, the goggles.
safety glasses.
Yeah, he has every piece of hardware that you can have on your body while you play in the NBA.
It's like a punter wearing gloves and a visor.
That's a great comparison.
And this is going to be tough for me to not just name 5 point guards, because my next one, I grew up a Maryland fan. I got to go Steve Blake, the realist.
Oh, gosh. I forgot about
the
Steve
realist,
Blake.
Vino Blanco.
I don't think he's that goofy, though.
He's real.
I mean, that's
got a fist fight with John Gillen at a practice in Maryland.
John Gillen.
What?
Or John Gilchrist.
Oh, I was like, John Gillen.
How old was John?
8-year-old John Gillen fighting Steve Blake.
I was like, John Gillen got hit in the face last night, but I didn't know he got in a fight.
Story on this.
Kenneth Faried set a back pick on him last year, and the vine of it's priceless. Where Steve Blake bumps into him and takes offense to it and just decides to truck Kenneth Faried and stands over him staring at him. But yeah, so I gotta give him some love. I don't know if I put this dude on my team, but gotta give him a shout out. Phil Forte from Oklahoma State, that diesel little white dude who just pulls up from the logo. He'll shoot from anywhere on the court. I respect that.
That's right.
He's a little white dude.
Diesel.
Luke Ridnour and Kyle Korver, loved them both in college.
Korver went to
Surprisingly.
Creighton, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought so.
Dude. Cash
And-
money, Korver.
Cash money.
Luke Ridnour, Oregon, great.
This is a lot of guards,
Ducks-
shooting
Ducks
guards
into
here.
Bucks. Yeah, I don't know if I
Some
can
big
put
fellas.
both those two on my team, but all right. So Jason Capono
Yeah. I like it.
played college at Cal, but won the 3-point contest 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And I loved it the third, when he was trying to defend it the third year or something, and they were doing their pick, the celebrity commentators picking who's going to win beforehand. Charles Barkley, someone picked Capono, and Charles Barkley's like, all due respect to Jason Capono, he can shoot, but it's Jason Capono. He's not going to win 3 years in a row. He can't win anything 3 years in a row.
The impersonation right there was spot on, by the way.
Not my best performance, but it's Chuck. You guys know what he sounds like. I guess I'll keep it. I'm sure I'll think of 8 people as soon as I get done naming my team. That
Yeah.
I'm pissed that
We could
didn't
do
put over
honorable
these guys.
mentions.
But
I got a
yeah,
couple.
yeah, we'll throw some more around here. But I guess I'll give CSU some love with Jason Smith.
Yeah.
Not that goofy, but just your most standard, average white power forward. He's hung around the NBA for
a
the
long
last 8
time now.
years or so, but hasn't done anything special in that time. Yet has always played 20 minutes a game wherever he's at. I felt bad because last year I told all my friends who were Knicks fans, I was like, oh no, Jason Smith's actually a really good player. You guys are gonna like having him. And halfway through the season, I was just yeah, sorry for telling you guys Jason Smith's a good player. I could have sworn he was once upon a time.
You can dominate with him in 2K, though. He can shoot. You can't
Yes.
stop the 7-foot shooter.
He's no Kristaps Porzingis, but he's a nice player. I'll give him that.
He can foul Blake Griffin.
The pride of
Yes.
Kersey, Colorado, Jason Smith.
I have no idea where Kersey, Colorado is. Never
No
heard
one
of
else
that.
does either.
Oh, okay.
Even the people that live there don't know where it is.
All right, so who are some of the others we want to toss around?
I got Kevin Kruger. I know Keegan will remember that. Kevin Kruger, he was Lon Kruger, whatever you want to call him, UNLV's old head coach. He was the point guard there a couple years ago. I don't remember exactly when. I think it was when we were in 8th grade, maybe?
Ooh, somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah,
He was
and
coach before Dave
They made a
Rice.
run in the tournament there, and he's got the nice curly hair top. Kevin Kruger, a little bit
I
goony.
don't remember him, but I just Googled him, and man, he is ugly.
Exactly my point.
Jeez.
Exactly my point. Yeah, look at that.
Just
Kinda
your
looks like-
typical standard like white point guard. Like that's
Pretty
who I
much.
would expect if someone was like, "Draw me a white point guard." And I'd be like, "This guy."
This guy
That's like
right here.
That's like the 2K guy if you make him white.
Yes.
That's like 2K my player. If you do it.
The default 2K player, Kevin Kruger. I had Sean Bradley. We can't talk goofy white basketball players
No,
without
no
bringing
doubt.
up Sean Bradley. And then this guy, the only reason I bring him up is because people only knew him because of his brother, Taylor Griffin. Blake Griffin's brother. They both played together at OU, and like Taylor was always there getting like maybe 8 points a game, and that's the only reason we know him because of his brother.
All right, this would be getting away, kind of getting away from basketball, but Blake Griffin, the point guard on his AAU team was Sam Bradford.
What?
Little known fact. Yeah.
Really? Talk about Tyler Hansbrough eyes. Sam Bradford.
Sam Bradford looks so small. Like, like just in a football uniform, he kind of looks like a punter.
It's because he wears those long sleeves.
Yeah.
You got to show off the guns.
Guess if you don't have guns, though, you probably try to
That's
hide
what I
them.
mean. Like, does he have guns? Yeah. probably
Eh.
not.
Maybe if he wore a visor and some gloves.
I'm surprised this guy didn't make it on any of our teams. Matthew Dellavedova, the Australian St. Mary's legend.
The Australian Shepherd.
Dellavedova, Delova, what's his? Yeah.
It's like that. Have you guys seen that commercial that they've done recently for like the Heisman, where they have Flutie talk? I think it's Flutie talking to him, or no, it's not Flutie. It's
They have Matthew Dellavedova in a
no,
commercial.
that doesn't have anything to do with Matthew Dellavedova. Who is it? They do like the Heisman commercials, and they've had like Herschel Walker and like Desmond
Yeah,
Howard and
I know
all
what you're
those guys
talking
in it,
about,
and
yeah.
they talk about rivalry week,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just like rivalry week, rivalry week, and like they can't say rivalry week.
Yeah.
I don't know why that came to mind, but that's just we can't say Matthew Dellavedova's name, and no one can say
No one can say
rivalry, I guess,
rivalry
either. So back to my honorable mention team. Gotta throw Jimmer Fredette on there.
Yes.
I mean,
you have to.
yeah,
I thought he was gonna be like relevant in the NBA, like not good, but just like when you can shoot like that,
yeah,
you would think
He used to pull up from like
someone would-
half court
Yeah, dude.
and drain him.
Remember when he dropped 40 on Dwight Smith's head?
yep.
Yes.
But that
I do remember.
that NCAA tournament game against Florida.
And the soundboard remembers.
That NCAA game against Florida.
Yeah.
And I mean, he pulled up from like 25 feet like 4 times in a row, and he had that just like nasty crossover. He would get you going left and just pull back right, and just I mean, he just gave everybody buckets.
He's the only guy I watched in college that I kind of had like a flashback to Stephen Curry when he played at Davidson. Obviously, Stephen
no,
was
they're
a
the
much
same.
quicker,
Yeah,
better at handling the ball, which is transitioned to the NBA. But they both were guys you can be like, oh, they'll make any shot they take.
No, yeah, Steph's tournament game, where everyone found out who
Insane.
he was pretty much like what Jimmer did, like every game.
Yeah, pretty much.
So next on the list, gotta give a little love to current Mountain West player Colin Neal, New Mexico.
Yes.
That's another
One of
guy
those
that-
faces that Travis just loves to punch.
I don't know why they're bringing me. Emmett brought it up last podcast, and I just explained what was going through his head.
So
Yeah,
gotta throw some
mind
love
that.
there.
I hope Colin Neal never listens to this podcast.
Yeah, that'd be-
actually, yeah, I kind of hope he does. I don't.
Now,
don't really care.
well,
I'll
if
see
he
him in the
does
Mountain
see
West
me,
tournament.
it wasn't me. I was explaining Emmett's thought process. Hit Emmett, not
I'm
me.
gonna tweet a photo of Travis at him.
He can
Look
he
for
can
this
come.
guy. Next up, we'll go these guys kind of in a tie: Luke Walton and Matt Bonner.
Yeah.
Luke Walton.
Luke Walton, probably the greatest interim assistant, not really coach ever. I mean, he's
Yeah.
got the Warriors off to what 21-0.
He's such a bro. Like,
Oh yeah,
he probably smokes a lot of weed. Still.
yeah.
I'm
Did
just
you
like,
see that his Mercedes got stolen? Yeah, his Mercedes got stolen in San Francisco a
This
couple weeks
high
ago.
ass probably like left it unlocked.
Left the
with, like,
keys on
key in
top of the
there, yeah.
car, and hey, I'm hungry.
Waiting for him to like. I'm waiting for like a baggie of weed to fall out of his pocket during a game when he reaches for a handkerchief or something.
Handkerchief?
All right.
Who carries a handkerchief anymore?
NBA
Luke
coaches.
Walton. Luke Walton.
White dudes.
Oh,
I just
Goofy.
I just like to imagine like what he says to the team during timeouts. Just like, come on, dudes. Gotta play better, dudes.
But on a more serious note, like to me, this shows like how little like coaching has to do with in the NBA. Like I'm not saying Luke Walton's a bad coach, and there are some really good coaches in the NBA, but like you can literally just throw somebody in like Luke Walton, and like with a team like the Warriors, they can just win 20 games.
Totally disagree. That mean they fired Mark. I mean, it's still like a product of like Steve Kerr and everything they built last year. Assistant coaches, your entire coaching staff's important in the NBA.
No, I'm not saying that
your
like coaches aren't
and
important. I'm
everything.
just saying like you can like throw a coach in there, and like with the Warriors team, like they can win 21 games.
Okay, but
Well,
I
that
mean,
team's
this
so
Warriors
talented.
team didn't figure out how to play the way they do on their own, like just messing around. Like that was entirely because of the coaching staff and like these decisions to not play big men, to play Draymond. At
No.
the five,
I'm not
that type of
saying
stuff.
like it's not.
I
I'm
just
not
mean,
saying
that was coaching genius. I thought like that's why part of why the Warriors are so good.
No, and that's what I'm saying is like that's what I'm saying. Like Steve Kerr is a great coach, but like
the assistant.
yeah, like
I
Luke
see where you're
Walton can
coming
come
from.
in and like he can win 21 games, and I mean
Steve Kerr would always say this last year though. Like I got the best assistant coaches like in the league. Like that's why I've been so good as a first year head coach. All that stuff.
yeah.
Well, to settle this,
He had Alvin Gentry.
I've
too.
got a
Didn't he?
live Luke Walton soundbite
Thank God.
rolling up.
Oh, bro, it's just like, dude, you get the best barrels ever, dude. Just like you pull in and you just get spit right out of them. And you just drop in and just smack the lip, whoop-ah, drop down, snap, ah. And then after that,
Luke Walton.
you just drop in, you just ride the barrel and get pitted, so pitted like that.
Well, I think we've gone through all this for plenty of time.
The Luke Walton slander is real.
All right, let's talk the whole purpose of our podcast, which it's definitely taken a turn. CSU basketball, they get the loss last night to Long Beach State.
Never heard that expression. They
What?
got the loss.
Pick up the loss,
Usually,
however you want to say it. I can't reword things. I'm used to reading off the prompter, not coming off my head. Okay, CSU loses 83-77. Fouls and turnovers played a big role in this game, and CSU had 14 turnovers. Not going to win many games that way.
And a couple of those were Prentice Nixon down the stretch, I think. Which at least one of them was pretty bad, where he kind of pump faked it when he probably should have just swung it as soon as it touched him, and he tried to pump fake and then swing it, and I know he hit some shots to bring them back in that game, but it was strange for me to see a true freshman playing the last 10 minutes when Eustace never relies on these guys.
Yeah.
And he wasn't just hitting shots. I need to give him credit. He was playing really good defense too. It sounded like I kind of missed the first 10 minutes of the second half when I was walking over after doing the volleyball game, walking over to Moby. But he missed those 2 free throws, and it just seemed like, all right, that I kind of thought they were going to take him out of the game after that, but they left him in for like another 4 minutes, and it was a rough 4 minutes for him. It seemed like maybe Antoine Scott should have been in, although he did airball a free throw. So
He did.
But
That was rough.
and I get they want to close games with just one big man on the floor, but everyone in the student section was chanting, "Put Teal back in for a reason." Like,
Yeah.
sounded like when he came out, defense kind of went to crap, and they couldn't get rebounds. That was the weird thing too. I didn't feel like I was watching a Eustace team those last 5 minutes.
I think it's because of the small line. After the game, Eustace said why he didn't play Teal was because of free throws.
Yeah,
'Cause,
which
you
that's
know,
always
Teal.
gonna be part of it.
I think he's like Eustace was saying like 1 for his last 11.
Well, because he went 1 for 7 in the UTEP game, and so I guess that means he went 0 for 4.
Yep.
last
Yeah.
night. Okay, yeah. So those
Actually,
two,
yes,
Prior
0 for
to
4,
that,
yeah.
he started the season by making like his
Yeah, he was
11,
doing
11
good.
of his first 14 or something.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
the smallest sample size that we could possibly be getting excited about. But yeah,
That was
Yeah.
like that time where Shaq made like 6 straight. And there were reporters asking him about it after the game. He's like, yeah, I think I'll just add like Vich to my last name because that's what all the great shooters have. He's like Shakovic. He's like Stojakovic. Like all those guys. He's like, yeah, I'll just add Vich so you can just call me Shakovic from now on.
Dwight Howard had a game a few years ago I think it was last year with the Magic when he shot like he ended up shooting like 26 free throws or something, and he made like 22 of them or something. And the reporter after the game asked if it was like one of his best games ever, and he was like, well, no. I shot like 30 free throws.
But yeah, I think the big thing last night that was missing, especially on defense, was just an interior presence, and that's what Teal brings. And I mean, you saw it. I mean, 32 points in the paint for Long Beach State, a team that really isn't known for scoring that much in the paint. They just took it right to CSU. 20 paint points in the second half, where Teal Daniels only played 5 minutes. And I think that was one of the big differences. I mean, free throw shooting hurts, yes. I mean, you only shoot 59% from the free throw line. You're not going to win very many games. But if you're giving up buckets like that, you will. And I think that was the thing that killed CSU. And that's the thing when you play these small lineups, when you go 3 and 4 guards and you only play, I mean, 1 or 2 true forwards. And I know Eustace likes to swing. I mean, guys like Joe and Fred Richardson from time to time and stuff like that into that 4 spot, but they're not true post players. And you saw it last night. I mean, they took advantage of it. And, I mean, when you look at that stat line and you have 2 starters who go scoreless, I mean, Teal played, 20 – he played 16 minutes, didn't score, and Joe Desmond played 24 minutes and didn't score.
Which was a down night for Desmond. He's normally up there like 36.
And think about that, though, where a guy has 0 points in the second half and the crowd's chanting, put him back in. Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And normally I would not give credit to CSU fans for knowing much about basketball, but I will give them credit that, like here, I mean, put Teal back in the game.
Yeah.
He's not a rim protector, not in like the traditional sense. He's not going to get up and swat shots or alter a lot of shots, but
he's a big body down there.
I mean, yeah,
he's
see his guns and how strong he is, and I mean, you don't want to challenge him.
Yeah, definitely. When we bring up the turnovers, obviously, but the big thing that stuck out to me when I was watching this game, it was one of the quickest paced games I think I've seen all season, which probably is because of the turnovers, those transition points. But I think CSU just got worn down in this game, and you can't talk enough about Nick Faust, Long Beach State's Nick Faust. He was draining threes. He was throwing down some monster dunks. 27 points in this one, shot 8 of 14. Nick Faust was huge for Long Beach State, and CSU really didn't have an answer for him.
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of their go-to guy last night, and I mean, he's their leading scorer. He averages 14 a game. Last night he had 27.
Maryland legend. Well, not Maryland legend. Maryland transfer.
I think
for a reason.
I hate to harp on Nick Faust, but I mean, I think there's a reason why. I mean, he didn't stay very long at Maryland, and why he didn't stay very long at Oregon State.
He's a good defender. He's very full of himself. He's doesn't seem like a great team player.
Yeah, and that was the thing last night is, I mean, he was jawing with Gene Clavel, which, I mean, guys are going to jaw and stuff like that. But, I mean, the coaches sit him down and tell him, I mean, to knock it off, and he doesn't. And, I mean, he's just one of those guys, as Emmett pointed out, I mean, did not play a lick of defense last night.
Oh,
I mean, he had his back turned the entire time, had no idea what was going on.
Loves doing the James Harden, lazy reach.
Exactly.
Instead of trying to move his feet.
I mean, terrible off-the-ball player. I mean, when the ball wasn't in his hands, he stood in the corner, was kind of uninterested in it. But, I mean, he could score, and that's what CSU couldn't stop last night.
I couldn't remember specifically why. I just remember a few years ago at Maryland not liking him.
Yeah.
He didn't play enough for me to and he wasn't in the game in crunch time ever. But I remember seeing the name and being like, "Oh, he's at Long Beach State now." I didn't like that guy. Can't remember his game at all, but I didn't like that guy.
Yeah, I like it for some reason.
But yeah, I think that's. I mean, and CSU's been susceptible to that. I mean, as long as Eustace's been here, of guys going off for big games. And Nick Faust did it last night, and CSU just really couldn't recover from it.
Yeah.
Fun fact about Nick Faust, came into last night's game shooting just over 40% from 3, about 35% from the rest of the field.
Dang.
Oh,
that's nuts. Yeah.
That's bad.
And what's weird too is he was like a 32% 3-point shooter at Maryland, both years. Like I checked his
just getting
stats out
better.
before the game, so
Huh.
I mean he's probably just had a hot start to the season. It's just inefficient all around.
Yeah, well, I mean, a couple of his
it
shots
worked.
were wide open last
Yeah,
night.
I mean, it
Can't
wor-
deny that.
It worked out. I mean, yeah, he killed him.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to Long Beach State's uniforms.
Yeah.
Those are great.
The
Those
beach.
are nice.
Just where it says beach across it, it looks a bit better in their home ones where it's all white and just says beach. But I always say Michigan State's ones with like the cursive where it just says state in cursive. Those are some of my favorite uniforms in any sport. Long Beach State's home ones might be even cooler where it just says beach and like those cool letters.
Pretty slick. Can't deny that.
Pretty
It's a little footnote when you talk about John Gillen, career high, 28 points in this game. Shot 6 of 10 from 3. He looked great out there last night. He was really disappointed after the game, saying that he turned the ball over too much. But when you look at the team, I mean, he just in line with the rest of the team. 3 turnovers for him. And then you look at the rest of the team. A lot of guys had 2, a lot of guys had 3. So, I mean, yeah, you don't want to turn over the ball 3 times, but good game from John Gillen last night.
The one thing I would say about him, and again, like I only caught the last 10 minutes in person. First 20, I was kind of just, watching the stream, and then the first 10 minutes, second half I missed. But the 10 minutes of the game I saw towards the end, it still happens where the ball just totally dies in his hands. Like he can make nice passes, but he's not just that guy who just keeps it moving and knows where he's going to pass it before it gets to him. He needs to look around, dribble it.
he kind of resorts to driving.
And it's fine when like last night when he's on and his shots are falling, that it's acceptable then. But I mean, some of the games where he's struggling from the field and guys are happy to let him keep shooting, he's just kind of the only guy who never swings it. And like all the guards like it. Gian does it sometimes too, where he'll die in his hands. But John, it just seems to happen a little bit more than anyone else. Other than that, I love his game. But
I think the big thing with him is he's really good when CSU can get out in transition.
Oh yeah,
And
because that speed.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, I mean, when they're able to do that as a team, CSU is much better. I mean, you look at the athletes that they have on that team, but I mean, so much of the time they're getting bogged down in this half-court set. And I mean, I've talked to both of you guys about this. There's a reason that CSU really struggles to get easy baskets when they need to, and it's because they don't have a play to get a guy an easy look.
well, they have
And-
Motion Joe.
But
and they have Butter, which is when they give it to Gian with 5 seconds left and tell him to get a shot. Those are apparently plays.
But I think, I mean, that's one of the things that, I mean, when CSU needed a bucket last night, they couldn't get it.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things, I mean, yes, they didn't shoot all that well from the field, but I think that's part of it is, I mean, you don't have, I mean, a ball screen for somebody, or you don't have, I mean, a set something that can get a guy open for an easy look. And these guys are relied upon to simply just go off of their own offensive skills. And at times that works really well. It worked great last year with JJ.
Oh, yeah.
But at times it doesn't. And you have to figure out how to get guys easy looks when you need it to. And that's where CSU couldn't last night.
And at the times, and we saw it last year, the times where it's not going to work are against those better teams that can play solid defense, which is worrisome going down the road. But you could also think part of that would be their lack of chemistry. I mean, it's going to happen every year with Eustace, but I imagine that plays a role here.
I asked Gian the other day if like the offense felt a bit smoother this year because they don't really practice it. It's never going to look, world class, but it's there. I felt like this year they've at least had stuff that looks closer to design plays instead of just a general motion stuff. Like some of the things that I've seen them do, it's not every possession, but they at least have some where I'm like, that was like a play that actually looked like maybe they practiced it.
Yeah.
Which don't say that often watching CSU basketball. I asked Gian about it the other day, and he was pretty much just like, no. Same. No, same as before. We just have more guys who can create now.
Yeah, I think
Get our own
that's
shot.
it. When you watch this team, they're more able to get themselves an open three. I think that's
Yeah, I
big
mean,
well, they're more
it's-
willing to take a three.
Yeah.
It's,
there you go.
It's the
Yeah.
same thing as before. Like last year, Stanton and JJ could always get their shots. Just those guys are going to play closer to the basket. Stanton could shoot, but I mean, they're generally going to be playing closer to the basket. Whereas this year, the guys who can create their own shots are going to be more on the outside. Mm-hmm. Even Amogbo, I mean, plays. He's a big man, but he'll catch the ball on the wing, elbow, and try to go from there sometimes too.
Speaking of Mogbo, Man, he's blowing me away.
He's really good.
He is a solid player.
When it was 74-70 with like a couple minutes left in that game last night, and they again, the only way they're scoring transition, they got a fast break somehow, and it was like him and someone else, and like I don't know, he took off from so far away, that finger roll and one that he had to bring them within one. That was just so smooth. Like, you don't see a lot of big men who are kind of that refined offensively and athletic.
That's the thing, his athleticism. I don't think I've seen a player at CSU with his level of athleticism on the court.
You'll see a Colton who's just huge and big and can board and do the dirty work, or you'll see a JJ who's got this really nice finesse offensive game. You rarely see guys who have both like the athleticism, size, and skill set. And not to say that he's like some fusion of those three guys put together. I mean, he's probably not on either of those guys' level yet, but just in terms of where he could be and what he could turn into.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential there with him.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun to see how that shakes out later on in the season with him, if he feels more comfortable, I guess, in the system. But now, next game tomorrow, the rivalry game.
Sunday.
Sunday. What am I talking about? It's not Saturday. The rivalry game we've all looked forward to. I would be lying if I didn't circle this one on my schedule, calendar, whatever you want to say. CU coming into Fort Collins. That's going to be a big one because CU is looking a lot better this year.
Yeah, slightly better than last year when it was just Askia Booker taking whatever shot he wanted. And, yeah, pretty much anything other than Askia Booker is good for them right now.
Yeah, I think the big thing with this CU team, I mean, you look up and down their lineup, and there's not a single guy averaging more than 29 minutes a game.
Josh Scott's soft.
What's that?
Josh Scott is soft.
We'll get to that later. But
I'm not going to fill in for you like last time. I'll let you take the blame.
I didn't say it has a face I want to punch. It's just
you look up and down that roster, and, I mean, there's just, similar to CSU, there's just a lot of talent in different places. George King, who basically was a relative unknown the last 2 years at CU, is now their second leading scorer. And he's been huge this year. Josh Fortson is a transfer from Providence. He's been a good guard for them. And obviously Josh Scott, I mean, 18 points, almost 10 rebounds a game so far. But there's just a lot of depth there. And the interesting
even some of these
thing...
other guys playing 20 minutes a game, like Wesley Gordon played a lot last year, Dominique Collier, and, I mean, Xavier Talton even.
Yeah,
Just
Talton.
like 4 points a game is
From Colorado,
a solid
by the
player.
way.
Well, and he was a starter last year.
Yeah, and
And-
they're doing all this without Xavier Johnson too.
Yeah. And I
He's
think
a stud.
the big thing on Sunday that will be interesting is to see how these teams match up. Because if you look at CU down low, they have more depth than CSU does. I mean, you look
Absolutely.
at Josh Scott, then you look at Wesley Gordon, and you look at Torrey Miller. All of those guys are legitimate 6'9". I mean, those are true post players.
Yeah.
And that's what CSU
lacks.
doesn't have.
Yeah.
I mean, they have Teal and they have Amogbo, but they don't have a ton of post depth.
Yeah, after that, I mean, Kimani Jackson didn't even play the first few games and is still going to be getting used to the offense. So we'll see if Eustace even feels comfortable to play him at all in this game.
Yeah.
But, I mean, even if he does, that's a guy who kind of just looks like a shooting guard who just was too tall to be a shooting guard.
To be a
and some
shooting
coach eventually was like, no, you got to play forward and stop shooting.
And so I mean, that's kind of where the interesting matchup is. I don't know if CU is good enough on the perimeter to guard some of CSU's guys, and I think CSU can take advantage of some of the size mismatch, and that, I mean, you can draw some of those guys out away from the basket. I mean, the Josh Scotts, the Torrey Millers, the Wesley Gordon, you can draw some of those guys away from the hoop and take them out of what they're good at, which is blocking shots around the rim. So I think that's probably the bonus for CSU, but I mean, CSU is going to have to get pretty tough inside on Sunday because there's some bulk in there.
Yeah.
And I mean, as Emmett pointed out, I mean, Josh Scott was dominated last year by Teal Daniels. He was absolutely dominated. And I mean, we'll see if that happens again.
See, that's the point I was going to bring up. Last year, I expected CU to dominate CSU. I just expected it. I thought Josh Scott is going to have his way with the Rams, and Teal Daniels played big time. And it could happen again.
Well,
it
so-
could happen again.
Going into last year, I wasn't as high on Josh Scott as a lot of people. Like, he gets his stats always. Like, he's going to have his 10 and 10 at least most games, but I had never really been blown away by him. I know he's a nice player, very consistent, but I had trouble picturing him just like taking over a game.
Yeah, part of it's just size. I mean, let's be honest.
I mean, but he doesn't really play above the rim is the thing though. So if you're not an above the rim big man and you aren't, a Frank Kaminsky type offensive player who can score in a million different ways, it's kind of hard to take over a game in the last, 5 or 10 minutes when teams are really focusing on you. And that was the other thing. I mean, Teal, it was mostly Teal, but he said the other day, like, what CSU did so well defensively was Teal would front guys in the post. And then if they ever tried to lob over top, not just against Josh Scott, but all year they did this, Stanton, JJ
would crash down.
Even Fred sometimes. They were so good at that. And that really bothered him. John Gillen swatted him from behind at one point during last year's game. The first two possessions of the second half, Teal kind of just buried Josh Scott in the post and scored. And, like, those might have been Teal's, like, only points of the game, but it was just so, like, demoralizing the way it happened. I think Josh Scott ended up finishing, like, 0 for 8 from the field, 2 points on just free throws. But it wasn't even just how bad his stats were. It was I was there covering that game, and just, like, the look on his face was – like, he didn't want to touch the ball. He didn't look like he even wanted to be on the court late. He was really shook. Like, I'm not trying to, like, demean him or, like, make fun of him, really. I don't, like, hate Josh Scott or anything. I was like, this is their star that they've been saying is going to beat up on us all week. So,
well, here's his stats from last year's game. 0 for 7 shooting the ball. I mean, he had 2 points, which were from free throws. And he only had 8 rebounds. So,
yeah.
And I think
game for him.
I think the big thing this year, last year's game, they really let be pretty physical. I mean,
That's
the way
true.
Teal was able to
true.
push him around and stuff like that, they allowed a physical game.
The first possession, Stanton, like, got, like, a putback and, like, just, like, elbowed Xavier Johnson in the chest.
Yeah.
And, like, all the Buffs players on press row were just like, should be ejected, and they didn't even call a foul.
Yeah, and I think that's a
really
big
good
question mark of how they call this game on Sunday, because I mean, as we've seen early in the season,
they're
calling everything
left and right.
That was how it was 2 years ago when CU beat CSU here. Was some of the whistles in that game were unbelievable. The stuff that they called, some of the offensive fouls that they called, some of the hand checks that they called, and I mean, CSU was pretty outmatched that year, but they're in control of the game until John Octius picked up his 3rd and 4th fouls, which I just personally remember them being just terrible calls. I'm sure I come off sounding like a homer here, but CU was a better team that year. I mean, they were more stacked. It wasn't surprising to me that they won that game. But watching, I mean, CSU actually they were winning before John got those really two ridiculous fouls.
The chippy fouls, yeah.
And then last year was the complete opposite.
And I think that's what this game somewhat comes down to on Sunday is whether or not CSU can be that physical. Because if they're going to allow them to be physical, I think they can do the same thing. I mean, it's Teal against Josh Scott again.
Same thing.
And, I mean, if he's allowed to beat him up down low, I mean, I think probably the same thing happens. But if Teal gets in foul trouble, CSU doesn't have anybody else that can guard Josh Scott.
But I'm really glad you bring up this point because I didn't even think about that. That might be the biggest role in this game. But you also got to look at this roster. It's much smaller than last year. You don't have JJ down there. You don't have Stanton. I mean, you do have Mogbo,
but he's not playing defense without fouling too. He's still kind of figuring out.
He's struggled big time this season. And then other than that, you don't have any other guys on this lineup. And could they even play that same physical game?
And I think, I mean, the other thing last year.
We got to probably wrap this up in about 5 minutes here. They're giving us dirty looks today.
The last thing with this is, I mean, you look at that CU roster from last year, they couldn't shoot to save their lives. I mean, it was Askia Booker, and that wasn't a reliable. That wasn't a reliable shot.
No.
And you look this year; these guys are shooting 43% from behind the 3-point line. I mean, this team can shoot, and that was the thing with, I mean, fronting the post that they mentioned is you can front the post and you can help down on those post guys when there's not shooters. But if you find yourself stuck behind somebody when, I mean, you're trying to help out on on a pass inside or something like that, and they get out to a shooter and they hit it. I mean, if CU shoots well on Sunday, they could kill CSU. And that's the thing is, I mean, this comes down to a lot of factors that, I mean, if CU has a good shooting game, I mean, I see them winning. But it also, I mean, if they allow CSU to be physical inside and they allow the kind of basketball that Larry Eustace wants them to play, then I think, I mean, we have a much more interesting game.
I think it is worth, like, acknowledging, though, that just, like, in these rivalry games, anything can happen, but in this, at least in CSU the last few years, like, the trend that I kind of noticed is, like, the better team should be able to win at home, which is funny because last 2 years the away teams won, but I mean 2 years ago that was a really down year for CSU, whereas CU was great that year until Dinwiddie tore his ACL, which he hadn't yet. So when they came here, I mean, they were expected to be a much better team, and they won. It was a close game, but they won. Last year was a very down year for CU, and CSU goes there, and again, it was a close game, but CSU was able to win. But even when one team was outmatched, I mean, the home team was still able to keep it close. The 2 years prior to that, when the teams were very evenly matched, CSU won at home, and then CU won in Boulder when both teams were great. And I really think this year that both schools actually are very above average basketball programs, whereas the last 2 years, 2 years ago, you couldn't say that about CSU. Last year, you couldn't say that about CU. This year, these are both legit, very legit teams who can beat teams in the top 25.
Very evenly matched. Yeah, I'm with you.
I think I kind of lean towards the Rams just because it's a home game and they've lost 2 straight. I just think this team's kind of too good to lose 3 in a row, especially with it being to their rivals.
Yeah, well, it certainly will be a throwdown on Sunday. John Cena, I had to throw that into the show. But, yeah, we should definitely wrap this one up. We're at about an hour. Thank you for listening to Dine-In Sports Podcast Episode 2, brought to you by nobody. We got to get some sponsorship. And we were talking about this. We want to start bringing on athletes. I think the whole idea behind this podcast is, I don't know, we're showing off we're college students, and I think we should show off that athletes are also college students.
So if you're an athlete and you're listening, please
let us know if you want to come on.
If you know any athletes. If you have any friends who are athletes.
If you have any friends who know athletes.
If you have any friends at all, just
let us know.
Yeah.
We'd love to get somebody else in here.
And like we said last time, give us some feedback on the podcast. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. And thanks for tuning in. I think it's about that time, boys.
Tired. Think I'll go home now.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. We're doing this weekly?
Let's make it a thing. Let's do it.
We're making it a thing.
We'll give it a shot.
We'll see you next week. Right here on Dine-In Sports Podcast.
Jane, gold all in my chain.